Here is my beautiful violin. When I was maybe 13, 14, I stopped playing my violin for a while. And today we're gonna get into the full story because it's not only why I quit my violin, but why I came back to it. So yeah, this is the full story. We're not gonna leave any stone unturned as I like to do. So here it is. I was born with the violin. I came out the womb and I had a little violin in my hand. No. My dad, he's a violinist as well. He's a performer as well. He taught all of his children, my siblings, how to play. Started with my older sister, who is an excellent concert violinist now. I have to give her props, okay? She's very good. Ever since I was little, I was always trying to match myself up to my sister in terms of violin, because she was always maybe 5 or 6 songs ahead, so she felt like just out of reach, which was pretty, it was something to experience. My sister played, my dad taught my sister, and I'm the second born in my family, so my dad naturally taught me how to play after. There's a whole lot of pictures of me with my violin when I was younger, when I was smaller, and that's how it started. It was my dad, and then of course I have 2 younger sisters. They started playing violin when they were born as well. And we had a music school. It's still around, and so I was constantly surrounded by music from very little. Like I said, my dad played, my sister played. My dad actually taught my mom how to play, and my mom became one of the instructors at the school. So there was always a lot of music around. And let me put it down because I'm just gonna keep playing it. There's always music around, right? Not only that, but since I was little, art was always around. My sister did ballet. I did martial arts, which I don't think is considered an art, but art is in the name, martial arts. So, you know, there has to be something going on there, right? Art was always around us. I could hear music. It felt like all the time because I would watch my TV shows like The Backyardigans, which is top tier. And there'd be music inside that show. They'd be singing and dancing inside the show. And when we watch movies like Star Wars, I would hear the music. The music is one of the best parts of Star Wars. If Star Wars didn't have that music, Star Wars would not be what Star Wars is, right? We get in the car, I hear music on the radio, music from my dad's phone, or iPod at the time. And there's always music around, even inside like my martial arts classes, there'd be music playing in the background when we would do some drills. And thinking about it now, sound has such an interesting connection to life. I'm a very spiritual person, if you haven't figured it out already. So I'm just, my mind automatically goes there, right? Sound is always something that is present. If there's no sound, there's no life, And so growing up, I'd be learning the classic Suzuki songs on violin, you know what I'm saying? For those. I didn't tune, but whatever. It's just Suzuki, it's this classic, And like I said, I'd be learning the songs that my dad would teach these students inside the school. I would just be doing this, right? It was my dad. My dad told me to do something, so most times I would do it. You have to have a little bit of pushback, you know what I'm saying? If you're not, like, are you even a kid? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was my journey with the violin for a while and with music. My dad would say, play the piano, so I took up the piano. My dad would say, you're gonna learn guitar. With guitar, I said that I want to learn guitar because guitar is like one of the coolest instruments that there is. Like, what really, on a grand scale, what other instrument is as cool as a guitar? Like, there's really no other instrument for real. That was my journey in it with music for a while. My dad would say to play this. I would try to learn it. Some tears along the way, of course, because, it can get difficult, especially when you don't know what something means and you don't know that you don't know what it means. And you're just kind of, I mentioned that in Why You Quit Music Video. This is kind of opposite, but it's still present. Those topics that I mentioned are still present because I had to live through those. I had to go through the unwillingness of not wanting to practice, but still having to practice. And also, like, the barriers of study, which one of those is the misunderstood word or symbol. There's a whole bunch of symbols inside music. There's an ungodly amount of symbols inside music. And that went on from, like, I was 2 or 3 when I first got the violin in my hands. It went up until when I was about 13. So 10 years, right? And I learned a lot of songs in those 10 years. When I was 13, in my personal life, there was a number of things going on. My parents were actually in the process of splitting up. Like, my dad wasn't around my home as much anymore. Music was still around, but, like, the source who put the music there, my dad, he wasn't around as much personally for me. And so I started branching out into my own kind of thing. And luckily, my cousin, who I love so much, I'm not gonna name drop her, but my cousin, she introduced me to J. Cole, and that changed my musical brain forever. Because I heard rap before. My dad would play some rap in his car, like Jay-Z. but what J. Cole is rapping about and the situation with J. Cole's life, young life, where his father wasn't really around, and he had stepfathers and there was stuff going on. It just fit perfectly with what I was going in my personal life, which is why sharing your art is very important. I mentioned that in one of my other more recent videos. In this time where my dad wasn't around, I wasn't playing. And honestly, like right before that, I was learning a piece called Preludium and Allegro, which when I was learning it, I thought I did terrible. Because your dad and your sister, who know how to play those pieces, they're always saying higher second finger, higher, lower your second finger. They're always giving me the critiques. And personally, that really beat me down to a significant degree. But when I go back and I listen, I actually played that piece very, very well. I played that piece very, very well. I'm actually planning on getting back into Preludium and Allegro because it's a beautiful piece. And it, like I usually say, it communicates a lot. There's a lot of struggle there, and it's perfect for around this time for me personally. So yeah, right before my dad, wasn't around as much, I was learning a song called Preludium and Allegro. A whole lot of technique involved in playing that song and playing it well. And I felt like I didn't do it well, right? I was very discouraged from that piece. And of course, building up, my dad would always have me play songs that were just outside of my difficulty level, really outside of my difficulty level. So it would always be like this, right? And this was a very steep path for me. And I always felt like I couldn't do it because of this. If the gradient, right, if the steps up were a little bit smaller or not so much of a steep gradient for me, I would have been more enjoying the process of learning, right? But because it was so steep, very difficult. So that slowed me down and made me not want to learn the violin anymore. Once my dad left my kind of vicinity, I was like, well, I don't need to play anymore. And so for I would say for a good year to 2 years, I was not playing my violin at all. And it wasn't this violin, which I'm going to get into in just a little bit, but it was another violin, of course. But I wasn't playing my violin for those 2 years. Inside those 2 years, though, something very, very interesting happened. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have gone back to the violin. 2 years, I'm taking off a violin, not playing, not practicing. My dad's not around to tell me to practice and all that. And it's just me, J. Cole, and at this time I learn about Kendrick. I get into Drake, you know what I'm saying? I get into all of it. I'm learning about all these different artists, getting into different genres. And there was a song that I came across from Childish Gambino titled What Kind of Love? It really resonated with me, with what I was going on and dealing with in the time. And I tried to learn it on guitar, but there was no like sheet music for it. And there's no tutorials for it online. So I had to try to figure it out by myself, which I didn't do the best job of then. So what I did was actually started making a song that was similar to What Kind of Love. In writing that song and listening to the song, really getting to these other genres of music that I wasn't familiar with before, it really opened up a new kind of portal for me in and with music. Because before, when I was told to practice and told to play from my dad, it'd be something that I would just do without any kind of thought. But after going over these genres and trying to make my own song and trying to communicate this emotion with the song, as all songs do, I was really learning, although I didn't know it, I was really learning the real purpose and meaning of music, which is to communicate. And yeah, I kept learning songs that I liked. I learned how to play the best part. This is on guitar. The night we met, because I just came across that show. I just kept learning songs that I was really enjoying. And I don't know at what point, I think I was in school 2 years later, just about 2 years later without the violin. I still had it around, but I wasn't picking it up and playing it. I was more so messing with the guitar in these rap songs that I was getting into, right? It's 2 years after me touching the violin. And I come across, on YouTube actually, I come across Pavarotti's Ave Maria. It brings me to tears. And I'm completely addicted to Pavarotti in that moment in time when I'm 15. And so I try to play it on my violin and then I get the sheet music for it. Of course, my dad isn't around to teach me like he used to, so I just got to figure it out by myself. And I do, of course. And you can actually still see that Ave Maria clip that I did right around that time, around 2020. This time it was different because it was of my own decision. I loved the song before I started playing it. So I went into learning it with a different mindset. I still had to use all my theory that I learned from back when I was younger. It was a different reason for doing it. I didn't have to do it because my dad said it. I was doing it because I wanted to do it. I got into this space and this mindset that before, when I was little, I would just try to copy. When you see the very, the swaying musician. And my dad still does that to this day on any of the instruments that he plays. He's very much into it. These musicians who really get into it, I'd always try to copy them, but I didn't understand what was going on. I was just copying them, right? Fast forward, I'm 15 years old trying to learn Ave Maria, and now I really understand why they get into it, or what mode and mindset that they get into when you start playing an instrument from the heart, the soul, and the mind. It's completely different. That's when I picked up the violin again, and I started playing it. That was, I'd spent some time in another city. I came back home. My dad, he wasn't playing this violin. This is my dad's violin from college. In the music school, he'd always have it hung up. And so when I was little, I would always see it hung up. And over time, it got a lot of cracks and stuff in it. For like my 17th birthday, my dad got it repaired, and he gave it to me as a gift. And so this is my dad's violin. He didn't name it, I don't think. The name I gave it is Amidala from Star Wars. I am a Star Wars fan. And I'm thinking of another name. Amidala is cool, but I don't feel like it fits this one, so I'm probably gonna update it. Instrument got renovated. I started playing more. From this point on, I don't have the same relationship that I do with the violin. The old relationship that I had where I was looking at the music and playing the notes, that's no longer there. It's something where I have this emotion, I have this idea, I have this thought that I need to get out. And I don't know if you can tell, I talk a lot in these videos, but I'm not the most communicative person in my personal relationships. There's always more that I can say, but I don't. And so music had become then and is today the medium that I use to communicate the most. Once again, I don't have the same relationship that I did before. That relationship is gone, it's not even here anymore. I've fallen in love with the violin again because of this idea of you having an emotion, you having something that you need to communicate, and you're using the instrument to get it out to your audience, right? That is now my main focus, that is now my main work, my main goal. Of course, it takes time and effort and energy to learn the notes, but once you have them to a good degree, at least for me, once I have them to a good degree, my goal from there on out is to communicate that idea, that emotion, whatever it may be, to my audience. That is how I fell back in love with my instrument, and that's really what I'm trying to help others to do as well, because that's really what music is. Music is not just learning music theory and trying to play the songs or the notes on the page. It's feeling, it's rhythm, it's what's in the heart. And so that's what I coach people on. That's what I teach people how to do. And so, yeah, I hope this video inspires you. I haven't said this in a while, but if you are looking for some one-on-one help, I am here to help. You can book some time with me using my link up above. If we do work together, once we get the basics, the next goal is always to communicate that, because then you really never get bored with it. You don't get bored with it. You can communicate so much more with music than you can with just words. Hope this video helped somebody out. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon. And as always, peace and blessings. Much love. Akbarkhan.